Yes, Honorable CS, it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I never engaged with you. And I would like to thank you for honoring the summons of the committee. Some of your members sometimes give us troubles coming here, and so I am most honored for that. Now, I would like to begin from your document, which you gave us. That's your response. That's paragraph 3, where you say the proposed concession is anchored in the Public-Private Partnership Act of 2021. That statement locates these proceedings in that act. And my question is, under that act, do you have the locus to answer any questions? Who is the Cabinet Secretary anticipated under Section 2 of that act? That's my first question. Secondly, I would like to reiterate what the chair stated in passing, like to the light, but
it's a fundamental issue that your documents are crafted in a language that says that the Adani deal is done. We will, we shall, we are.
It's already concluded. I don't know why you are giving that impression that this deal is already concluded. I want now to take you to the law. You have given us here a process where you have said the bullet points on how a PPP works.
And I put it to you that you are trying to mislead the Senate. This step 1 to step 20 and so forth is not how the PPP Act works.
First of all, the PPP Act does not oust the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, which provides for direct procurement, privately initiated proposals, restructuring, restricted bidding, and competitive bidding. You have told this committee, in answer to Senator Ladema's question about those detailed sketches and what have you, that is the government which gave out that information to attract investors. I want to read for you a definition in the law of what the PPP, or what a privately initiated initiated proposal, that's under Section 2 of the Act, means a proposal that is originated by a private party without the involvement of a contracting authority and may include information that involves the complete evaluation of the proposal as if it were a bid. What you are telling us does not conform to that standard. And I would refer the minister to sections 40, 41, 43, and 44 of the PPP Act to underscore what I'm saying. And I would also want to refer the minister to part 7 of section 68 of the PPA Act 2021 on the establishment of the project company that states, you have told us here that you are negotiating that the CEO of that company should be a Kenyan. Under the law, when you get to that stage, what does the law say? On the execution of a project agreement, the project contracting authority and successful bidder shall establish a project company in accordance with the Companies Act. So if you are at that stage, it means this deal has been concluded according to the law. And you are trying to run circles around this committee, which is not acceptable. I move on. Jomo Kenyatta International Airport is a going concern. And the objective you have given us here is to expand the airport. And therefore the project is initiated by Kenya Airports Authority and cannot be privately initiated. Thus the project cannot be procured under section 40, 41, 43, and 44 of the PPA Act. This particular contract, if that's the aim, should be procured through the competitive bidding under section 46 to 63 of the PPP Act. The use of privately initiated proposals here raises a red flag that all you are confronting us with is concealment of fraud. And this might be a major case of money laundering, where a public project is being used to repatriate money that has been stolen from Kenya in the guise of developing the airport. I want to add on, Chair, if you allow me some time. I spent a bit of time reading through the document.
All right.
So, the use of this PPP in the Adani case is fraudulent. The process does not meet the requirements of section 40, 41, 43, and 44 of the Act. And given time, I'll jump through some of the things I wanted to say and just go to the key issues. I would like us to look, if you look at section 40, section 41, I'll go to 41, I'll jump 40, I'll go to section 41. Yes, 41A has an express requirement that you have not fulfilled. It requires that the directorate, in coordination with the contracting authority, shall before commencing an evaluation. You are telling us an evaluation is underway. You are even doing due diligence. But the law says, before commencing an evaluation of a privately initiated proposal, you shall conduct due diligence to confirm that the private party has not been debarred by any country or any international organization from participating in public-private partnerships or similar arrangement, is not corrupt, has not engaged in acts of corruption, and has not been sued or convicted on account of acts of corruption. It's a requirement of the law. Before you touch anything they propose, it is supposed to, under SEM 41, you have to demonstrate that the group is tax compliant in all jurisdictions where it has operated or operates. You go on and says, the entity has not, and its directors or officers have not been convicted of any criminal offense related to professional conduct within a period of 5 years preceding the submission of proposal, and have not otherwise been disqualified pursuant to administrative suspension or debarment proceedings. So, all these things, and I mean others I will try to highlight out, but just to leave it up because of time, I would have expected you, before you began addressing this Honorable Committee of the Senate, to first of all justify why it is you, the Minister for Transport, who is answering matters on PPP. The letter was addressed to Mr. Mudavadi. At that time, he was covering the entire cabinet. Who was the minister responsible who should be answering this question? Is it you or the Minister for Finance? You are a stranger in these proceedings. The minister to answer these questions is the Minister for Finance, not you. We are not recognized in law. And so, secondly, I would have expected the answers to begin by showing that there was this due diligence carried out and the Adani was cleared before the government went further to begin looking at them. Secondly, there's a requirement in the law that you must prove that competitive bidding could not give us a bidder. It must be that Adani is bringing something so unique to them that you must go the PPP way. If competitive bidding can realize the same result, you are supposed to do competitive bidding. Where is the proof that only Adani has the technology or the whatever to expand an airway or the capacity? So you needed to justify that competitive bidding was ruled out. The default for public procurement is competitive bidding. So your initial suggestion that the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act was like sidestepped by the PPA is not true. The PPA stands on the Public Procurement Act to advance its cause. So I put it to you that you are trying to scam us in your response. You have no standing to address this committee, and I would ask the chair to demand that the Minister for Finance, who is the entity recognized by law under the PPP, comes to address this committee on the questions you have asked. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Before I give the CS the opportunity to respond, it's good to note that the CS is properly before this committee. This is a committee of transportation. This is a committee that saw it fit to look into this issue of Adani because the is a matter of public interest. And we invited the CS to appear here to shed light. If we find the gaps, nothing stopped this committee from inviting any other person. And probably you have seen some gaps. So nothing stopped this committee from inviting anyone. But if you remember very well, maybe you are not in when I was making my opening remarks, I asked the CS, he was supposed to be accompanied by the Director General, Public-Private Partnership, who is Mr. Christopher Kiregwa. And I also asked that yesterday. So, and I said we are going to deal with that issue at the tail end because I didn't want to chase the CS away because it's a matter of national interest. So this is another character that we are going to discuss as a committee because we have invited the Treasury. We had actually invited the PS for Treasury, but we were expecting the Director General of Public-Private Partnership, who is actually the one who is supposed to answer all these questions. But the CS saw it fit to come before us because he understands our role as a committee, and I should thank him for appearing here. But having said that, Bwana CS, briefly, because it was Senator Omtatah took us through the law and what the law says, I would want you to comment on Senator Omtatah's remarks or contribution. I did not hear the question, but I would want to hear your comment on that.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Senator Omtatah, for the question. As regarding the due diligence that ought to have been done before commencing the exercise, my written response does say an initial due diligence was done, Chair, so it was done. It is not true that it was not done. If you go to my first page of my document, I did say in paragraph number 3, starting with, currently we are processing through the stages outlined in the PPP framework. We are in the detailed due diligence phase while also negotiating the proposal submitted by Adani. An initial desktop due diligence was done by KAA and the PPP Directorate before commencing the evaluation. So it was done. As regarding the procurement process, I'm not a lawyer, chairman like Omtatah. I thought he was, sorry. But I've just been referred very quickly to Section 4.2 of the PPP Act, which does say the provision of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act shall not apply to a public-private partnership. So I don't know whether we are reading the same law, the same act. And if you go quickly to section, which other section was this we wanted to refer to? Section 40, which basically talks to a contracting authority may consider a privately initiated proposal submitted under subsection 1, which is a private party may submit a privately initiated proposal to a contracting authority, and the authority may consider a privately proposal submitted accordingly. Chair, let me basically say, for big infrastructural projects, like I've said earlier on, you basically as a country are seeking big investments. And it's one thing to market your country, to develop your infrastructure. Other countries, like somebody said, Ethiopia is developing 100,000 passenger terminal, 100 million. Ethiopia, Uganda, sorry, I've got some numbers here. Rwanda is just developing its airport that will have a capacity of 14 million passengers at 1.3 billion. Just to talk to the issue of cost, we are asked many times, why are we spending 1.8 when Rwanda is spending 1.3? The capacity for Rwanda is 14. The capacity we are developing is 23. Ethiopia is developing 100 million passenger. But more importantly, look at the competitive aspects of Kenya being that anchor state, when we do enjoy the benefits of what I said earlier, locationing with Mombasa Port, that we should not be competing with Ethiopia, who do not have the benefit of having a seaport. And therefore, we need to ensure that by sea, by air, by road, we are competitive. And it's important, therefore, that whereas our fiscal headroom cannot afford us to build a new airport, which we should have built some 15 years ago, it's only fair that we seek private capital to help us to build a new airport. We need a new airport, and it is incumbent upon us to really suit investors if, for example, in my last trip to China, which is the China-Africa kind of forum on China-Africa cooperation, we are marketing a number of infrastructure projects like roads, and we are saying, how do we open up our road to Malaba from Nairobi, from Mombasa, and so on and so forth. So to be able to attract that kind of investment, Chair, you need to give investors information and to be able to make informed decisions to come to Kenya and not to go to Ethiopia. Let me rest. I don't know whether there's a very specific question which I didn't basically address from...
Maybe you can address that clause again, that you talked about the PIPs are not subject to...
I've just quickly been referred to Section 4.2, Chair, which does read the provision of the Public Procurement Act, Asset and Disposal Act 2015, shall not apply to a public-private partnership. So we basically have to prosecute the privately initiated proposal in line with the PPP Act. I think the biggest challenge, Chair, we are facing is that we have not really employed often the PPP Act, or not many projects have succeeded through the PPP procurement process. And then therefore, some of the challenges we are facing because of non-disclosure, there's a lot of negotiation in the process, is lack of information. And in Section 42 of the same PPP Act, it does read, a contracting authority may consider a privately initiated submitted under this, under one, which is a privately party may submit a privately initiated proposal to a contracting authority, and that is what Adani did. Thank you. Okay,
and when you're there, just go to 41. No, the same section 43J that states the privately initiated proposal under subsection 1 shall contain the following information. J states a justification why the project is not suitable for open competitive procurement. I think on that one, that's why that's the area. That's why we feel that Adani's proposal is the only proposal that we should go out with. Why not for competitiveness? Say we have one proposal, but before we consider this, we are going to invite any other person out there who would want to come up with their own proposals.
Chair, I'm advised we satisfied ourselves that there was good justification why the project could not be suitable for I think you're talking about the kind of investment we are looking at. The investors who look at various aspects of investing in various destinations, and yes, I think we can give that justification why we think the project, or why we satisfied ourselves that the project was not suitable for open competitive.
Point of order, Chair.
And that's why we're still insisting this Mr. Christopher Kiregwa, the Director General for Public-Private Partnership. I don't know whether it's before maybe the end of this session. You should have him here. I know. Okay, so if you can contact him, but I have Senator Sifuna.
Yes. Chair, you remember me asking the CS when the policy of government changed. It must have been at that point where he says he found justification for abandonment of an open tender system. So can he confirm that he is not just speaking ad lib, that there is a document, a document by government justifying the departure from, in terms of policy? And also, Honorable Chair, let us remember the provisions of Article 10 of the Constitution. Article 10 inserts the participation of the people at the point of policy formulation and a change of policy. So that, Honorable CS, if indeed government was abandoning this path, having found this justification, you needed to involve people and tell people that going forward, if we are discussing expansion of Jkia or any other national infrastructure projects, we are going to go the PPP way. So that policy change, Chair, we have to locate it in time and the process. Was it a cabinet decision? Who made that decision? And how were the people involved in the decision making?
Chair.
Yes, yes.
I thought we had agreed that all members ask questions, then supplementary at the
Oh yeah. I just allow, because that one was so close to what you were saying.
A point of order about section 4 that the minister referred to. It refers to a PPP agreement not being subject to the other act, not the initiation of a procurement. This act outs the other act at a certain stage of the procurement process, the agreement, and you have seen they have given a very elaborate procedure of how getting that agreement position.
All right. Noted. CS?
And why, I think the question is still why Adani and whether there was change of policy. I'm trying to locate where there was this feasibility study done and which informed us accordingly. PS, can you assist me very quickly?
Thank you. Chair, we, as Kenya Ports Authority, we did a feasibility study for Jkia That was after doing the National Aviation Policy and the JKIA investment plan. This feasibility study informed that the JKIA requirements for investment amount to $1.63 billion. We received a PAP of a proponent willing to invest close to $2 billion, and we satisfied ourselves that we can move as guided per the Act. Yes, the competitive bidding could have taken place. We start with the request for qualifications, and you go to the second stage of request for proposal. It is a lengthier process. Right now, a JKIA has a capacity of handling 7.6 million passengers per annum. Last year, we did 8.2 million passengers. That's why you see the long queues. That's why you see a very infrastructure that is really stressed out. And we made a decision to go and admit the PAP.
Excuse me, Chair. I would like to ask something on the business, please, in relation to what he has just answered, because I believe, Chair, that is actually not the question he was asked. Did the Kenya Airports Authority PS do an analysis, feasibility study, do a financial analysis, do an evaluation with the critical sector industries and critical players to make sure that that report, which would have made it possible for us as the oversighting team, should be having it in this list that the PS has presented? That list is not here. Chair, I want you to look at this issue by accepting that that agreement, that feasibility study doesn't exist here. The feasibility study we have is been done by a company called ALC, and ALC is not a Kenyan company, and this is why we have these challenges.
Is it the feasibility study on policy? Because you talked about the policy, but PS, before you clarify that.
What you are saying, please,
yes.
Very important.
Yes.
I want PS to tell us the problem with KAA. Is it financial or management problem? That is what he wants to know. If you've done that, you should have known the problem is financial or management. Why am I saying this, Chair? The CS has said, he talked about Ethiopia Bole. Bole, Ethiopia, they carried 17 million passengers, 2023, 2024. We carried 8 million passengers. And the profit they're making is $7 billion in a year, same year, including Ethiopia. So the problem we have, is it financial or is it management? Just tell us.
Maybe I think that will go to the CS. You clarify on the issue of the policy, where the expression of interest, because that question was asked by Senator Sifuna, sorry. I would want you to clarify on that issue. Where did we depart from that policy?
Chair, the feasibility report that is attached was done by the proponent as per the PPP Act. But JKA or KA also did its own feasibility report earlier, and it was concluded in February. And that is also an attachment, and it was done by ALG Consulting Group, which is a Spanish consulting firm, and it is part of the attachments that have been submitted today.
Chair.
Senator, before we entertain a point of orders, I wanted every senator to be heard. Then we can go to the point of order.
Chair, I beg your indulgence. There's a question from
answer the question by Senator Chute, then we go to Senator Cherargei.
There's a question on, is the problem financial? Yes, it is. KA makes around 4 to 5 billion a year. If we are to plan for an investment of 200 billion Kenya shillings.
Excuse me, Chair. The PS is misinforming the House. KAA makes 19 billion shillings a year.
Let's.
He's misinforming the House. It's in this report.
Yes.
So why are you saying 6 billion?
I'm talking about the net. We make 19 billion, but I'm talking about the net, having taken
the net, the profit.
Thanks for the clarification. Thank you.
Yes, the net.
Continue.
So if we make 4 billion and we need to invest 200 billion Kenya shillings, it will take us 50 years to raise that amount of money. for the first phase, what is required is 800 million. And you make 790 something, which is 99% of the revenue. We will need to lock that up for the first phase up to 2028 to invest the money that they make.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Senator Cherargei. Yes, let's go to Senator Cherargei.
Chair, allow me, let me try and ice the cake and ask some basic, like, Kitangata-like questions. Bwana CS, there is a viral video on social media, a young man saying airport imeuziwa kwa muhindi. And that Adani group, the last 24 hours, the allegations we are having that the Swiss authorities have frozen the Adani group bank accounts of 310 million Kenya shillings. Waziri, why don't you cancel this deal as of today before you walk out? And I know the president will understand. Number two, what is the consequence in case this deal is brought or halted today as you walk out from here before close of business 5 p.m. Kenyan time? Secondly, your former colleague before the House in November last year, Kipchumba Murkomen, there were 2 Chinese companies and who is Civil Engineering Group and China Aerotechnology Corporation called CATIC were given an award of 55 billion to build 178,000 square meters terminal, which was designed by Pascal and Watson of London. The information I have is that the government, after the deal was bought, the government paid 4.7 billion Kenyan shillings. What is the position on that matter, Waziri? Number 3, under the PMF Act and the Constitution, why would you prefer privately initiated investment as opposed to open tendering process? Is this a case of money laundering by individuals that want to launder money using this investment at Jkia? Number 4, this PIP by Adani group of companies, is it only on JKI, airports, or airstrips, including Karenga airstrip in Kericho, or is it only JKI restricted on build, operate, and transfer model, Waziri? Number 5, I've heard you talking about stakeholder engagement. In the rulings of court, and many decisions and precedents have been made, stakeholder engagement does not mean public. Even Article 10 of the Constitution, public participation involves even people who are not aware there is an airport or aeroplane. Is it in order for this committee, and what will be a comment, to indicate that public participation was never done as per envisaged by the Constitution? And finally, Chair, has raised a question on the legality, and the reading of that act is that this deal is anchored on quicksand or fraud, pure manipulation, conmanship, self-aggrandizement, greed, and corruption, and larceny and lethargy of the people who want to perpetuate illegality. Chair, when witnesses appear, they assume senators are busy from reading. Although we did Kipchoge 159 in reading documentation, it is out of curiosity that in the board minutes of care, this will be my conclusion, it is out of curiosity that in the board meeting, there are glaring concerns by the board. Either it was ignored, either it was not dismissed, or some big boy somewhere were playing golf and decided that KA board meeting minutes does not matter. In the observation in this minute 60715 of 2024 consideration of the projects, I will read one paragraph in the interest of time, that KAA has to surrender its interest so that the proponent can generate its target revenue. I think that's Adani Group. It was observed, and this meeting was sat. The members of this meeting include our brother, the acting MD, Mr. Henry Ogoye. It was observed that the project has attracted interest from different quarters in government, making it difficult to advance a common position as the government. This is an agency of government arguing that there is no common position on this issue of Adani decision in these minutes. That the acting, and we would want to know later, Chair, as a supplementary, why Ogoye, how long has he been acting as the MD of Kenya Airports Authority? Because the government in itself is telling, you know, it's one body as a body of Christ in Corinthians. It's like the hand is not trusting the mind or the legs. The government says in one of the entities that there is no common position of the government, and there are other interests. So it means this Adani deal was being done even outside the care and the structure engagement through who are these interests, such as money laundering. And because it came out, Chair, because somebody questioned, so in their own minutes, Chair, there was no common position on this deal of Adani, even within government itself. So Waziri, looking at these minutes, and we thank God that you did provide these documents, and that is why we insisted that you provide them in time. Looking at these minutes, either K was ignored, either Ministry of Treasury was ignored, and I hope, Chair, as you rule, the Minister of Treasury should also appear, Minister of Treasury, the PS and the DG. Of course, DG, Mr. Chair, should be frog-marched by the IG because he has defied this committee, Chair. So the question is, there is no common position on this matter. So Waziri, is it in order as you walk out of this place to cancel and call off this fraud by Adani Group? That is on page, members, Chair, I think people are looking for it, is page 4, the last attachment of Roman 4. We took a lot of time running about Roman in life, but anyway, this Roman 4 of that minute, Chair. So it was it. Let's give Kenyans what they want. This, as Abraham Lincoln said, this is our government for the people. Fight.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Senator Cherargei, for the question. I don't think that's a doubt. I don't think the questions about Adani that we are prosecuting is to, I guess, part of the, will help us go through the public participation, information positive, information negative. We do more better due diligence, but ensure that we do not lose, we do not throw away the baby with the bathwater. It's important, Chair, that this is not an investment that you are investing some few Kenya shillings. It's a very big investment, and would wish to all be working together to seek for way forward on building a new airport. And therefore, the questions that are being raised are very important questions to help us to get down to the bottom in our due diligence and confirm to ourselves and the government of Kenya that we have a serious investor. We do not end up losing the investor, and we don't have an alternative on how to build the airport. So it's important that we, at this stage of the stakeholder information, with the information coming that Senator Cherargei has pointed us to, we do really put them in the matrix of the questions that must be properly answered. Because, Chair, I did spend time in the beginning to show that the process, the PPP process, is basically an on-off, what do you call, a negotiation process. And you don't negotiate by you do documents. So we basically, as the proponents, Jkia, will do some work, send it over to the PPP Secretariat. We come back, work with our transaction advisor, respond to those challenges, and to an extent that we don't agree and they are deal breakers for us, then we can collapse. But it's also important to know that there are deal breakers for the concessionaire in seeking to invest in Kenya, because I don't think if we were another democracy, or we were another democracy, we are like many other African countries, you would get somebody trying to build an international airport in some of the difficult countries. More importantly, the minute that Cherargei referred to with respect to KAA board, and those minutes have not gone to the full board, was